Oh, hello there. I'm Bilchan.
I'm Nimikung.
I'm Banchan.
In this class, I'll read to all of you. Chapter 11, Section 2 of the picture of Dorian Gray.
Ah.
The picture of Dorian Gray. Oscar Wilde. Chapter 11, Section 2. Yet he was not really reckless. At any rate, in his relations to society. Once or twice every month during the winter, and on each Wednesday evening while the season lasted, he would throw open to the world his beautiful house and have the most celebrated musicians the day to charm his guests with the wonders of their art. His little dinners, in the setting of which Lord Henry always assisted him, were noted as much for the careful selection and placing of those invited as for the exquisite taste shown in the decoration of the table, with its subtle symphonic arrangements of exotic flowers and embroidered cloths, an antique plate of gold and silver. Indeed, there were many, especially among the very young men, who saw, or fancied that they saw, in Dorian Gray the true realization of a type of which they had often dreamed, in Eton or Oxford days, a type that was to combine something of the real culture of the scholar with all the grace and distinction and perfect manner of a citizen of the world. To them he seemed to be of the company of those whom Dante describes as having sought to make themselves perfect in the worship of beauty, like Gautier. And certainly, to him life itself was the first, the greatest of the arts, and for it all other art seemed to be but a preparation, hahen, by which what is really fantastic becomes for a moment universal, and dandyism, which, in its own way, is an attempt to assert the absolute modernity of beauty, had, of course, their fascination for him, his mode of dressing, and the particular styles that from time to time he affected, had their marked influence on the young exquisites of the Mayfair balls and Pall Mall club windows, who copied him in everything that he did, and tried to reproduce the accidental charm of his graceful, though to him only half serious, fopperies. Poirot, while he was but too ready to accept the position that was almost immediately offered to him on his coming of age, and found, indeed, a subtle pleasure in the thought that he might really become to the London of his own day what imperial Neronian round the author of the satiric and once had been, yet in his inmost heart he desired to be something more than a mere arbiter, like in term, to be consulted on the wearing of a jewel, or the knotting of a necktie, or the conduct of a king. He sought to elaborate some new scheme of life that would have its reason philosophy, and its ordered principles, and find in the spiritualizing of the senses its highest realization. The worship of the senses has often, and with much justice, been decried. Men feeling a natural instinctive terror about passions and sensations that seem stronger than us, and that they are conscious of sharing with the less highly organized forms of existence. But it appeared to Dorian Gray that the true nature of the senses had never been understood, and that they had remained savage and animal merely because the world had sought to starve them into submission or to kill them by pain. instead of aiming at making them elements of a new spirituality, of which a fine instinct for beauty was to be the dominant characteristic. As he looked back upon men moving through history, he was haunted by a feeling of loss. So much had been surrendered, and to such little purpose. There had been mad woeful rejections, monstrous forms of self-torture and self-denial, whose origin was fear and whose result was a degradation infinitely more terrible than that. Fancy degradation from which, in their ignorance, they had sought to escape. Nature, in her wonderful irony, driving out the unsure to feed with the wild animals of the desert and giving to the hermit the beast of the field as his companions. Yes, there was to be, as Lord Henry had prophesied, a new hedonism that was to recreate life and to save it from that harsh, uncomely puritanism that is having, in our own day, its curious revival. It was to have its service of the intellect, certainly, yet it was never to accept any theory or system that would involve the sacrifice of any mode of passionate experience. Its aim, indeed, was to be experience itself, and not the fruits of experience, sweet or bitter as they might be, of the asceticism that deadens the senses, as of the vulgar profligacy that dulls them. It was to know nothing, but it was to teach man to concentrate himself upon the moments of a life that is itself but a moment, to be continued.